Welcome to today's discussion. Today we're going to see design thinking, and I'll introduce you to the subject, and I'll introduce myself to you in following slides. So let's begin. And let me take you through what we are going to see in the following 5 days session. Today, as I was earlier saying, today is the introduction. I'm introducing to the design thinking, and three types of innovations. Your design thinking leads to three kind of innovations. I'll introduce that too. And tomorrow, when we are going to see what is empathize, this is one of the steps of design thinking, and there are certain tools like observation plan and techniques, interview plan and techniques like that. Empathy mapping, it's another methodology and tool which is used extensively while we are doing design thinking processes. Okay, so likewise, in the third day we are dwell deep into another aspect or step of design thinking, which is define, wherein we are going to learn clustering thoughts, organizing data on a system called latch, and positioning and semiotic square. It's a positioning tool wherein we use semiotic, a cultural study, to achieve the results or a positioning for a brand or a product or service. Okay. The fourth day is exploration or ideation day, wherein we are going to learn brainstorming techniques, types of brainstorming, semiotic, signifier and signified, and 27 sutras of ideation. How do you come up with communication idea? So that is a very interesting thing which I'm going to share with you. The last day, the fifth day, I'm going to cover two topics, which is fourth and fifth stages of design thinking, which is prototype, or you make a simulation or a model, and then test. We had a test with the consumer. So these two steps, the fourth, which is prototyping, the fifth, which is testing. And wherein we're going to look at testing prototype mockup with TG and testing your concept mood board. So it's kind of, we're going to see the prototyping methods and methodologies. There are 6 ways of prototyping, and when you test, how do you test with a consumer? Again, there are methods and models are there, frameworks are there, which we're going to study. Okay, so I hope so far so good. You guys are sensing that there is a lot of things which you're going to learn over a period of 5 days. Okay, so let's go. The first day, let me introduce myself. My name is Dharam. I am a brand mentor, author, an educator. I basically educate applied design thinking for emotion innovation. I studied my master's from University of Art London, UK, and I'm the founder of Good Design Thinking is a good business platform. So currently I'm writing these books. Each of them are kind of talking about how design thinking you can use to here build your D2C brand. Here it is going to tell you how to utilize emotional innovation, how design thinking leads to emotional innovation, and few tips and techniques. It's a to-do book for design thinking, how you can use the design thinking, what are those tools you can apply while you're doing design thinking. So those aspects covered in this book. Okay, so let's go ahead. You can read a lot of my materials, like I keep putting a lot of information regarding design thinking, emotion innovation, branding, and how to think and how to solve problems related to branding or brand building on my LinkedIn. And I have a channel called Dharam Mentor, wherein you can see a lot of curated video on good design thinking is a good business. On that, I cover various topics, interviews with industry people or owner and D2C brands, just to understand like how much design thinking is taking place while they're building brands. So it's a knowledge platform where I'm imparting good amount of knowledge regarding design thinking, emotion innovation, and brand building. So let's start today's main discussion. Me introducing you to design thinking. So why do we need design thinking? Why do we need thinking for that matter? So we use the thinking to find a way or find a solution or achieve certain thing. For example, if you want to travel from one place to another place, you apply your thinking and then you look for ways to reach that place, isn't it? So we apply thinking to accomplish tasks, okay? So here you can see there's a word called problem solving method. So if I want to say design thinking is all about a tool, a methodology, a process meant to solve problems. I believe most of you must have heard this word problem solving. Some of you in your schools and colleges must have did many of problem solving exercises. You identify the problem, then you came up with the solution. Okay? So let's look at further. So I'll just give you one very simple example. Of course, you identify the problem. Then as we were discussing earlier, we apply our thinking to solve this problem. So that's how we generate solution. Okay? So it's better to understand in a simpler manner so that you can remember this much more vividly. And it's very important to understand these definitions, okay? Because I will be using this word problem solutions many a time in my discussion. So whenever I use this word, you know what I meant, okay? So let's look at here. Yes, of course, there's a transportation vehicle, the state government bus, and it takes you from one place to another. It helps you to reach your hometown or travel. I bet if you have traveled by this bus overnight by this bus to reach your hometown, you all must have experienced how discomfortable these buses are for a long journey. It's fine if it is just in half an hour, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, still it is okay. But if you're traveling for 10, 12, 14 hours, you start realizing how discomfortable they are. So you're traveling a longer journey, so these buses are quite comfortable, yeah? So the problem using these buses for a long journey is not comfortable. Volvo, or nowadays there are many other brands are there who came up with solution. They created buses for a long journey where you have facilities like you can sleep and you have air-conditioned environment, and they use a fantastic technology. Or so if you travel by these buses for a long journey, 8 or 10 hours, they're really comfortable, okay? So how problem is solved using technology, using new designs, and bringing these aspects, like what makes your journey comfortable, if there is a facilities to sleep, if the inside environment or air conditioned environment, if it is there, so you can control the temperature, yeah, and having a good suspension, you will be having a less bumpy ride. That means more comfortable. So like that, they try to bring that what consumers were expecting. Another example here, you can see that I believe most of us must have struggled taking out ketchup from this glass bottle, and you know that's a Herculean task, and this is a problem, okay? Like, it's a huge problem, but how it's solved using a product design. So here you can see this top-down packaging over here, and instead of using a glass, they're using plastic which you can squeeze, and here you can see that you can easily squeeze, and the ketchup is just coming out with ease. Okay, so now you can very clearly see what is happening here. There was a huge problem with the product design and understanding the problem, what consumers or people were facing. Then you used your thinking, like, you know that when you reverse, automatically the ketchup will come and sit in the bottom because of gravity. And again, the material is a squeezy, it's a flexible, you can squeeze with your fingers. Glass you cannot. Again, using that kind of material which can squeezing, it will take out the ketchup out. And using gravity, squeezing that top down, making it stand, all of that thinking had given the solution. Okay, so now you can see that how product designer in this case used design thinking to provide solution. So let me come to the 5 stages of design thinking process. Let's look at academic aspect of what design thinking is. As the first step is empathize. So what does it mean, empathize? Design thinking process starts with understanding problem you're trying to solve. Okay, it's all about understanding stage. This is achieved through consultation with experts, engaging in observation or empathy for others, and experiencing and personal immersion into the physical environment, or taking interview and observing when consumers are using those products or services for that matter. And you're understanding what problems consumers are going through, or you're experiencing the problem itself, so that you can empathize much better when you're providing solution. Okay, so that's the first stage, understanding. The second stage is define. So what does it mean? You're trying to define the problem area. You complete the define stage, putting together all your information and synthesizing in order to define what problem needs solving. So what is that problem? Which is that problem? Which is that area you want to solve? For example, in the ketchup you saw, the problem area is like taking out ketchup easily from the bottle was the problem area. The new solutions what they provided, you can easily squeeze it, the ketchup will just comes out. Okay, in the bus, if you have a sleeping facility, if it has got air conditioned environment, and if it has got a less bumpy, of course you can sleep and travel overnight journeys. So it's as if you're sleeping on your cot or a bed, you're sleeping in a moving bus. I sometimes say it is a moving cart, a moving bed. Yeah? So you kind of define what problem need to be solved in the defined stage. Then we move to the third stage, which is ideation. Like you start looking for, how do I solve this problem? Should I change the material? Should I change the structure? Should I use the gravity? Should I bring the comforts what we experience at home on the bus? Should I create the controlled environment or air-conditioned environment? Okay, so you start ideating how you can solve the problem. So you can apply the ideation techniques to arrive at the business solution. Generally, there are methods and processes are there and which you apply to arrive or explore new ideas. So those things I'm going to discuss with you in the following days. Okay. So the fourth one, which is prototype, you all must be knowing that you create a dummy or simulation or kind of a small model. And if you look at architect, they create a small models before they construct their whatever they are creating, a building or museum or whatnot. So those mock-up, model, simulations all come under prototype or prototyping. So design team will produce mock-up version of the product. So once you come up with an idea, then you start creating one or two sample pieces. So once we have those sample pieces, you want to test them with the consumer so that you'll come to know whether the solutions what you are providing, is it really solving the problem? Okay? So testing phase is used to understand how people think, behave, feel, okay, and empathize with the given solutions. You came up with solutions and then you're testing those solutions to see that the effectiveness of your solutions. This is that last stage. Of course, this is not just a linear, it's an iterative, okay? What does it mean, iterative? It's not like you start for empathizing and you end with testing. Of course, you begin with empathizing. You need to understand the problem area. Then you define the problem. You created the idea and you made a prototype. You tested. While you are testing, you come to know that people are not responding the way you were expecting. In the sense, they are telling you, oh, what you are trying to solve was not the real problem what we faced. We faced something else. That means you go back to define the problem again. For some reason, you created an idea, you did a mock-up, that mock-up hasn't turned out, or it's very difficult to produce, okay? And there are some modification needed in the mock-up. So you go back, it's basically iterative, you go back and create or come up with new ideas. So until you reach a perfect solution, you keep going back and correcting your mistakes, and then you producing and testing, and that's how you finally come up with a product or a service which really addresses the consumer's problem. So this is the whole process of 5-stage design thinking process. So now look at the big thing is this. These 5 stages of thinking helps you to come up with functional innovation, process innovation, and emotional innovation. These are 3 types of innovation are necessary for any organization to thrive, become successful. This is very interesting. If you see the organization which are failed, they are unable to kind of have all the 3 innovations. Maybe they are lacking one type of innovation or 2 types of innovation, therefore they failed. And if you look at the successful companies, they're able to balance or have all the 3 types of innovations at par, so henceforth their success is intact. Okay? So a little bit further understanding, what does it, these 3 areas corresponds to one stream or one type of aspects. What do I mean? Viability, which is financial business viability. Feasibility is making something practically possible, and it's a technical side of the aspect. Okay, in a creation, if you look at it, there is a financial side of it. You need a fund, you need a technical support or technology you need to make it, and whatever you create, that should be desired by consumer. A company cannot be successful if consumers don't desire their products or services. Okay, so desirability of your prospective consumers is also critical. Let's go further. As I was earlier saying, that to come up with innovation, functional innovations, of course, your business viability, which is financial understanding and technological understanding, technical feasibility, combination of this helps you to come up with functional innovations. And process innovation, it involves technology or technical feasibility and understanding the human needs. And lastly, which is emotional innovation, wherein you need to understand the human psychology, human behavior, their desirability. So like that, these 3 innovation happens, and these 3 innovation corresponds to 3 streams. Like here, it's a financial and manufacturing majorly need a functional innovation. The process innovation, wherein engineering and engineering design or product design play a huge role. Emotional innovation majorly happens in the branding and marketing field. So I myself extensively worked in advertising and brand building and branding agencies. I'm a brand mentor as well. So I extensively use emotional innovation, and I kind of have this understanding about behavioral understanding or how to create desirability among the consumer, because the people who are kind of helping to do emotion innovations, they are well versed with human psychology, human desirability, how people pursue, how you can stimulate somebody's desire, etc. So last 2 decades I have been working in branding and marketing, so I kind of have a good understanding about this area. So I help companies to come up with their brand solutions. So let's look at one example wherein you can see that Apple is a successful company, we all know. Their function innovation, they try to manufacture in those geographies where they can get a quality as well as they are financially in a viable condition. And look at their process innovation, wherein they are using technology or technical feasibility, and then understanding that consumers need a back-end support. So they have their own operating system and iTunes and all of that, like where they are giving back-end support, which is a process support. This is a process innovation. And here you see that emotional innovation is all their advertisements, all their touch points, all their products, and how they communicate about their products. So here you can see very clearly that they're very strong in all the three innovations. Henceforth, they are a successful company. So that's it for today's discussion. Thanks for listening.